Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the podcast. In our featured partner series of Citrix Ready Podcast, we explore the technology integrations that Citrix has with its partners. And in this series, I invite guests from Citrix and their partners to sit down and spend some time with me and share how they're solving real-world problems for businesses, not on their own, but by working together. And today, I learn how Citrix and IGEL have built a partnership that is solving real problems for businesses. IGEL delivers a powerful unified endpoint management software that is revolutionary in its simplicity and purpose-built for the enterprise. And many of you may already know that the company's world-leading products include IGEL Universal Management Suite, IGEL OS powered thin and zero clients, not to mention those all-in-one thin client solutions too. The end goal is to deliver a smart and secure endpoint management experience that shifts granular control of thin and zero client devices from the end user to IT. And regular listeners will know all about Citrix Workspace and building that new future of work. But what happens when these shared visions to solve real problems collide? And what happens when Citrix and IGEL work together towards a common goal? Well, that's the topic for today's conversation. So come and join me, Citrix and IGEL to find out more. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Neil. I'm the technical marketing manager at Citrix. Been with the industry for past 8+ years and responsible to drive the partner route to market strategies for Citrix, developing the ecosystem, positioning solutions, and preparing the go-to-market materials that help increase solution adoption.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Erdo, and I am part of the Strategic Alliances team here at IGEL, strictly focused mainly on the Citrix relationship with a secondary focus on Microsoft. So thanks, Neil. I'm happy to be here today.
So starting with Citrix, what is Citrix Vision with Citrix Workspace? Because it's a subject I'm reading more and more about online, but I was wondering if you could expand on that for listeners hearing about it for the first time.
VC is synonymous to a place where billion users come together to get their work done. So work is no longer a place. It's an increasingly dynamic activity that people expect to be adaptable as they are. And Citrix powers the digital workspaces that combine the freedom and the security. So whether work is happening on site, or the road, or in the cloud, we give you the confidence without compromise. And that's the big idea of what we essentially do. It is aspirational in nature and yet grounded in the reality of what we can deliver today. And it represents of what is happening in the market and ties to what Citrix can credibly claim today and in the future about the ways we help organizations find a better way to work.
And as a company that's working with so many brands and huge businesses all over the world, I'm curious, what are the problems or trends that organizations are facing today that Citrix Workspace is addressing?
So if I have to sum it up, it really boils down to 3 essential needs of an organization in terms of talent, security, and choice. By talent, I would refer to the competitive talent advantage. So how we work is changing. It is favoring organizations that trust employees and not resist, offering flexibility, personalized tools to boost productivity, engagement, and creativity. And the business advantage goes to those who can recruit, retain, and empower the best talent with the preferred tools that make technology an enabler and not an inhibitor. And that's one element of it. The other piece is the security strategy. With flexibility comes risks. And as work moves beyond the office walls, organization need a new security framework, so to say, that enables more flexibility, productivity, and innovation, not less. And we deliver that comprehensive security approach that combines the contextual access, eliminates having to rely on point solutions, and we provide advanced behavior analytics so you can maintain control and improve the experience. And finally, when I say choice, I refer to the choices in hybrid world. Every major industry is changing with constant disruption, and you want technology to smooth the path to work that is faster, more efficient, and flexible. So more choices for your strategy on hybrid and multi-cloud environments are vital to your future success. And essentially, these are the three essential needs that we pitch in for an organization, which is talent, security, and the choice.
And what I love about this story is how Citrix is working with others and forming alliances to tackle these problems. So at this point, I've got to bring IGEL into the conversation. So I'm curious, Jim, how does IGEL OS help customers with their EUC concerns?
Great, absolutely. Yeah. For IGEL, it all begins and ends with simple, smart, and secure for IGEL and the end user computing population out there, Neil. It's all we do. We do it every day with a keen focus. So to dive in a little bit more on what that means, we're purely devoted to helping you save time and money. We're dedicated to hardware independent platform solutions. So it provides freedom with end user computing devices, and it also extends the life of old hardware that a customer might potentially have. We're focused entirely on a software-defined endpoint around security, optimization, and management. So going back to simple, smart, secure, we're simple because we're focused on freedom at the endpoint. As I mentioned, we can then extend old hardware for another 2 to 3 years, which is a real huge saving on capital expenditures, and you could point those savings at other more strategic IT initiatives, such as moving to the cloud or other revenue-generating IT initiatives. You can have your users up and running in minutes, not days or weeks, and you can manage them all centrally through our Universal Management Suite. So there's a CapEx savings there that I mentioned. We have some customers I'd like to mention quickly, like Diversicare, the University of North Carolina Health System. They've been able to radically simplify onboarding new clinics when they bring them on and managing disparate endpoint devices at these new clinics. So multiple vendors can be homogenized, if you will, with the IGEL OS. So that's the simple part. The smart part is that the IGEL OS, it's a tried and true operating system. It's been deployed to more than 3 million endpoints now, and we have over 17,000 customers using the IGEL OS. And what's really great about that, especially with Citrix, is we're a channel-created and channel-driven ecosystem. We have more than 400 resellers on a global scale that assist in getting these IGEL OS endpoints deployed. Our Linux solution brags an ecosystem, as I mentioned, with a channel integrators, but we also have over 70 ISVs, software and hardware manufacturers, that have been approved by IGEL. So customers have the confidence in knowing that when they implement IGEL with Citrix or any of the other 70 partners, it's going to be a seamless, supported experience. So now you can ensure your desktop and user experience consistency across all of your endpoints. And we know it's a little harder to measure there, but this is an OpEx savings that comes to fruition as well in conjunction with the CapEx savings. So we've got customers that have been able to reduce their patch updating, their support tickets, and so on and so forth by up to 80%. We've got one major retailer out there. They're managing 17,000 devices, and this is going to sound crazy, with one field tech. And another is planning to reduce their desktop support staff by greater than 90% with our IGEL solution. So we've got a major retail out there that has over 100,000 endpoints being supported right now by over 500 techs, and they think they can reduce that by, like I said, up to 90%. So huge OpEx savings there as well. And that's not meant, that's obviously they would redeploy those resources to, again, something more strategic other than just managing desktops. And finally, simple, smart, I'll touch on secure here. We're secure because we're focused entirely on a software-defined endpoint security from the edge and from edge attacks. So the IGEL OS, it runs on any x86 processor that has 2 gig of RAM. So you've now transitioned that machine to a highly secure, read-only, fully controlled device. It's all managed from a single console, and we believe that we are able to now get you to move Windows compute into the data center and the cloud where it belongs, and that IGEL OS on the endpoint, it reduces the threat of malware, viruses, ransomware threats, and so on, because again, it's read-only. So you can have a user clicking on a link that they're not familiar with, and that link is not going to execute. So again, you're very, very secure. And as I mentioned earlier about working with ISVs, one of those ISVs is AMD. So at the chip level, we're able to deliver what we call internally here a complete chain of trust, from the chipset to the UEFI boot, to the bootloader, to the Linux kernel, and then the IGEL OS provides partitions where you can have customizations specific to your environment and ultimately to the applications in the cloud. So if anybody out there, and we know they all are, right, is really concerned with security today, we've really got a great answer for them on their endpoints.
And as a former IT guy that likes to look under the hood and see how everything works, a question I feel compelled to ask, especially as you mentioned endpoints a minute ago, is how does IGEL manage all of the endpoints?
Yeah, that's great. And that's, obviously, as I mentioned here, 17,000 end user clients. And even beyond that, Neil, we've got in production, our solution, it not only provides the end user the compute OS, but it does include, as you mentioned, the management software that the IT team will use to provision and control those devices. And incidentally, IGEL's Universal Management Suite, it comes at no charge. Let me say that again. It comes with the OS. So our UMS will scale to tens of thousands of users. It's highly scalable. As a matter of fact, we have one retailer who is really pushing us to get over the 100,000 mark, and we've got some great test data now. Recently came in from our dev team that's happening, so we're really excited about that, and it's going to scale out to close to 500,000 here before 2020 is out. It's scalable to build and support. Easy drag and drop profile configuration information. Here's a really cool piece too. It integrates with via the REST APIs. So if you're running some enterprise management systems such as like SCCM from Microsoft or IBM's Tivoli, which is very prevalent out there, and obviously the cloud-based system that most customers are using now, ServiceNow, we leverage all those automation policies that have already been created. So via the IGEL UMS system, you can enable license portability, so you can assign and move licenses between endpoints, creating flexibility and protection of hardware investments. We have one customer in a hospital environment that uses IGEL's asset inventory tracking capability to detect when, if any of the connected devices to IGEL ceases to function. For example, we may have some tap and go card readers out there in the healthcare world, and if one of those fails or it gets disconnected from the network for any reason, it'll fire off a request to ServiceNow, starts that workflow. It ensures that the device will be checked by the staff. So the clinical staff love this feature. It saves them time and hassles of grabbing a workstation on wheels that might be disabled, or the batteries are dead, or the single sign-on card might not be functioning due to an error. So we round out the entire package with managing our devices, our operating system, and then integrating with those known systems and policies that they have in place already.
And it only seems a few years ago that everyone was worried about migrating from Windows XP to Windows 7. But of course, now Windows 7 is heading out of support in just a few months. Right. So what kind of challenges and opportunities are you facing around Windows 10 and Windows 7 at the moment?
Yes, that's really a very pertinent question now, as you mentioned, Neil, with Windows 7 end of support right around the corner in January here of the new year. IGEL's fully committed to getting the message out on Windows 7 and to the corporations and the customers that are using that. We have a very quick and inexpensive way to get those users up and running and functioning in a secure way, especially with those workspaces and those workloads that are in the cloud, in the Citrix cloud and the Azure cloud, running with Citrix managing it in WVD platform and so on. It's very simple. You can pop that IGEL OS onto a current Windows 7 device, and you're up and running in minutes now, connecting to your applications and your workloads without the hassles of managing Windows at the endpoint. And as I mentioned earlier, we love Windows. We think it's great. It's steady and sure and secure in many ways, and we love it in the data center. So we know Microsoft too is actively working quickly to run all of the Windows applications, not only Server and SQL, but Office 365 and so on, much more securely and efficiently in Azure. So they own all the software components. They can make VDI, DAS, whatever you want to call it these days. It's more than an acceptable solution from a security and performance point of view. So you simply migrate to Windows WVD. Citrix Management Plane in the middle is awesome, especially for those larger customers, and IGEL OS on the Windows 7 endpoint devices, and you've solved the problems of being out of support or paying for additional annual support from Microsoft, which could be, by the way, up to $50 per Windows 7 device. And you've eliminated the burden of managing like the regular updates, the hot fixes, the security patches that Windows requires on the endpoint. So now with IGEL OS installed, you are more than ready to access those Azure resources, as I mentioned, and Microsoft Windows 10 multi-session has to offer. So with Citrix's excellent integration, obviously, into both Azure and WVD, they've been doing it for 30 years now. The IGEL purpose-fit Linux OS, with all of its security, easy management tools, and support, are just what the customers need to make this work. And one final point on the Windows 7 topic here, Neil, is we are in the works right now of very close to finalizing a bundle with Citrix that addresses specifically the Windows 7 end of service. We're going to announce this at Ignite here on November 4th, right around the corner. So be on the lookout for a joined product bundle from IGEL and Citrix that will be specifically targeted to Windows 7 customers.
And a question for both of you here. Can you tell me a little bit more about your partnership and the kind of difference that you're making together?
I'm sure. So Jim touched on the bundle solution program and the workspace endpoint. So I mean, this might seem like a shameless pitch of my work that I do here at Citrix, since I'm driving the technical program called Citrix Ready Workspace Endpoint Program. And IGEL is one of the top 10 thin clients that is verified under that program as a Citrix Ready Workspace Premium Endpoint device. Now, you may ask, or you should ask, what is a premium device? And to give you some background, we ran a customer survey for Citrix Workspace, trying to understand why customers choose us. And 56% of the surveyed customers responded their number one reason to purchase Citrix Workspace is to improve employee experience. And of course, they want to do this with minimal costs, not having to give their users premium thick line devices and have to maintain their software upgrades manually. That would be tiresome for the administrators. What they instead rely on devices such as IGEL, and end user experience is a very crucial element of our integration and testing, which is the essence of our partnership. And we apply, Citrix applies bunch of algorithms to encrypt and encode the information that we send from the servers, like the data, apps, and desktops, and rely on endpoint devices such as IGEL to decrypt, decode, and deliver that fine optimizations, leveraging our ICA channel to get the end user experience right. So a Citrix Ready Workspace standard endpoint is a cost-effective, cost-efficient device that lets you do everything of all of those things that I mentioned above with a great user experience, testing multiple workloads for a task worker, knowledge worker, and often power users if they want to access, for instance, 3D-rich applications without having to rely on CPU resources of the endpoint. So that's a Citrix Ready Workspace standard endpoint. And a Citrix Ready Workspace Premium endpoint is a device that not only does that, but also gives you that HD experience for any kind of workload, including CPU-heavy load tasks such as video conferencing, Skype for Business, and Teams, and other unified communication peer-to-peer video. And it qualifies all of those test cases that we have carved out as part of a Citrix Ready Workspace Endpoint program. And not just for Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop portfolio, but also for Citrix Workspace.
And what about you, Jim? Is there anything that you can share about your partnership and the difference that you're making together with Citrix?
Yes, that's very important to us, Neil. I can say this with with confidence. Citrix is IGEL's most important partner and has been for many, many years now, and we see it continuing in that way for many years to come. I was just at a Citrix partner council meeting in Miami this week where I shared some information with the team there. And one of those bullet points was that we are experiencing at IGEL 358% year-over-year growth Q3 to Q3, which is phenomenal growth. And I attribute that to the partnership that we have with Citrix and the Citrix integration partners, MSPs and CSPs that are supporting both IGEL and Citrix. So that was a great shout out to them, and it's a testimony to how the two companies work together. We've supported many of the Citrix initiatives over the years. There are events such as Citrix Summit, Citrix Synergy. We're on tour right now with them currently running the Citrix Future of Work events in hundreds of cities, and also the Citrix CUGC event. So we are really close to them. We're able to showcase the strength of the partnership to both our other partners and customers. And I can say this with confidence, more than 70% of IGEL's customers are using Citrix, and IGEL continues to support the latest version of their workspace applications. We support the last 3 releases of the Citrix receiver, so you know you're going to be connected and supported regardless of whichever version of Citrix that you're running. And we're really excited about their new CMD, the Citrix Managed Desktop announcement, which will be pointed towards that Windows 7 customer demographic as well. And Citrix has once again agreed to be a platinum sponsor of our own IGEL Disrupt end user computing conferences. It's the only conference that we're aware of that's going to be addressing cloud workspaces today. So that's happening in Nashville in January, and then in Munich in February. And Citrix has come in as the highest level of sponsorship there, and we are dedicating, I think, 12 hours of Citrix presentations and trainings. They'll also be joining us for the keynote. So we see this continuing to even greater levels as the demand for Microsoft WVD gets more prevalent out there. They're just going to expand and validate this VDI market space once and for all, and it'll just highlight the strengths and the maturity of the value that Citrix brings into the WVD market. So with the extensive reseller landscape that both of our companies share, the acceptance of Linux as a smart, secure endpoint of choice for the desktop, we believe that our aligned approach to the market around Azure Cloud, desktops in the cloud, VDI, DAS, running Windows in the data center, and then hardening the endpoint, which is what we bring to the party, the partnership will thrive to even higher places. So one last promotion here. Stop by our booth at Ignite, everyone, if you're going to be out there in the first week of November. See both of the solutions in action together and hear about some real-world Fortune 500 customers that are using IGEL, Citrix, and WVD to maximize their cloud advantage.
We are sponsors in MS Ignite. The Microsoft Ignite event is to be held on November 4th to 8th. So if you guys, any of you listeners are attending Ignite, make sure to visit our booth and check out our demos and let us know if you have any feedback.
And we've talked a lot about that workspace journey today. So could you possibly expand on the role that IGEL is going to play in that workspace journey?
Yes, of course, Neil, absolutely. So I'm going to take us back to the beginning of this podcast where I mentioned simple, smart, and secure. You know, we fall back to those values and deliverables every day here. Windows has been with us for over 34 years, and it's served us very well, but it's time for simplicity at the edge, we believe. Everybody out there is used to using their iPhone or their Android phones, right? They've got Unix in their hand and or a flavor of Linux in their pocket. So again, as I mentioned probably a couple times on today's call, Windows belongs in the data center, and it's time for an easier, less demanding OS at the endpoint. We believe that IGEL OS is just that, and we're being rewarded with record levels of adoption in the healthcare space, financial services, retail. We just had a very, very large retailer commit to us in July, and then even in the education industries in that space. So regardless of your current desktop, your current laptop, or even your thin client solution, IGEL can extend the life of those hardware choices and put your focus back on the applications that run your business and generate revenue.
If we zoom out from all this, how do you think that the Citrix solution differs from all the other solutions that are out there in that digital landscape?
Sure. So we are differentiated in multiple ways, Neil. So I mentioned about how we are relevant in today's market with the whole the need for talent, security, and choice, and what Citrix helps when we look at the current trend, managing an ever increasing list of SaaS applications is web and mobile applications running on any number of clouds is unwieldy and increases your security risks. And Citrix Workspace, with its people-centric approach to security, is differentiated, and it enables IT to take control and proactively manage security threats in today's distributed hybrid multi-cloud, multi-device environments. And only Citrix can fully aggregate all applications and data across all applications, both on premises and in the cloud, to deliver the right experience to the right user at the right time. We offer, if I have to highlight like 5 top things that I think that would be worth calling out, is one, we offer cloud-based application data network and identity services in a secure digital workspace. The contextual access to virtual apps is another important piece, where connecting from any device, you get that contextual experience. We deliver a superior mobile-first end-user experience that adapts on changes in device locations on network. We secure all types of enterprises applications and data collaboration workflows with our Citrix Content Collaboration Suite as part of the Citrix Workspace. We simplify the overall IT configuration, monitoring, management across these environments by designing and deploying it in Citrix Cloud. So we have that whole suite of products that's required for organization who wants to adopt the digital transformation and get a digital workspace. We and going back to what Jim mentioned about the whole WBVD revolution that's happening, IGEL endpoints are also Citrix Ready WBD verified endpoints, which is a segment that we dedicate to our cloud workers. So just to define again, in case people are not sure what WBD is, it's Microsoft's Azure native remote desktop and application virtualization service, which is included with their Microsoft 365 E3 Plus and E3 SKUs. So that means you can use IGEL, Citrix, and WBD, the complete solution stack, to get a multi-session Windows 10 experience, or even Windows 10 extended support. So yeah, I think these are some of the reasons why we have differentiated our strategy with respect to how close we work with Azure, with Microsoft Team, with our day one support for WBD is another reason for differentiation among many. What I love about IGEL and Citrix partnership, I mean, although we are differently located in terms of time zones, in terms of the companies, it's almost like working in in 2 buildings side by side. We support each other, and we are very active, responding to each other's email responses, getting the code up and ready, and validating on the day one any of our Citrix launches any kind of new technology. It's first, and we always can depend on IGEL to make sure they have an integration angle verified and promotable with Citrix. So yeah, great partnership.
Excellent. And whether people can attend MS Ignite, or they can't, or they've just got a few questions after listening to our conversation today, could you both remind the listeners of where they can find you guys online, and equally the best way of contacting your team if they're left with any question?
Yes, certainly. So again, my name is Jim Airdo. It's spelled AIRDO. You can find me on LinkedIn. And then for some product-specific information, if you go to igel.com/demo-IT or demo it, an IGEL engineer can walk you through the system. And then for those of you that want to play with it on your own, igel.com/form-download. And you can download 3 free licenses there and try it out on your hardware.
And yes, this is Sagnik Datta. So you can reach me out at sagnik.datta@citrix.com, or simply you could shoot an email to our team at citrixready@citrix.com, and we could get you folks any access to if you want a trial access to Citrix Cloud instance or the Citrix Workspace, or you want to understand how the user experience is like, we could help you get an access and a sneak peek of what's coming up.
Well, I'll add all those links to the show notes just so people listening can find you nice and easily. I wish you the best of luck at MS Ignite. I'm quite jealous that you're there. I can't make it this year. But more than anything, what I absolutely love about this story is you're both hugely successful in your own right and solving problems for businesses, but it's how you actually teaming up and how that partnership is helping you make a difference together. So a huge thanks to both of you for taking the time to come on and share that story with me today. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Neil, for hosting this. We appreciate it. Thank you, Sagnik. Look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you, Jim. And thanks, Neil, for hosting us.
So many big takeaways there from that shared vision that Citrix and IGEL have together. And also how they're making a difference in building the future of work together. And if anyone is attending Microsoft Ignite in November, please go and see the guys and tell them Neil said hello. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's conversation too. So do you have any examples of companies working together towards that greater good rather than working in silos and very often working against each other rather than with each other? Because as you all know, I always say that technology works best when it brings people together. And for those reasons alone, I want to share more stories like that on this podcast. So let me know your thoughts by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. But that's the end of this featured partner episode of the Citrix Ready Podcast. But I'll return again very soon to explore these technology integrations that Citrix has with its partners. So a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.